You wouldn't think that the Souls-like formula would fit with a third-person shooter, but Remnant from the Ashes was a pleasant surprise. With 37 unique bosses to fight, ranging from dungeon bosses to world bosses and everything in between, I'm Billy S, and I recommend you sit back, relax, grab a snack, and watch me blast through the game's bosses, starting with... At number 37, we have the Ancient Construct, who can only be fought by obtaining the Control Rod from the Maul boss fight, as long as you chatter the Houndmaster's horn. Bring it to the Construct outside of the NPC shop on ROM, and boom, the fight begins. And 30 seconds later, boom, the fight ends. Unironically, I have no notes of this boss because he was there and then he wasn't. I don't even think I was that overpowered for that point in the game. He just really didn't like the beam rifle or my little gremlins I spawned in. The rest of ROM is way harder than this tin can, though that depends on whether his turrets spawn in a good spot to help him or not, because I have seen other players get shredded by them, I just wasn't one of them. At number 36, we have Friizze, found in the Shackled Canyon dungeon. Remnant splits its fights into two types, dungeon bosses and world bosses, with dungeon bosses often being boss variants of elite enemies you've already faced in that world. Friizze, as a regular enemy, already irritated me with its ability to chase you and rain fire like it's the apocalypse, but as a boss, it's actually not the hardest part of the fight. At regular intervals, Friizze will dive into the arena's poison pools, forcing you to kill hordes of floating skulls before it reappears later on, and it's those skulls that drive me up the absolute wall. Even with a high DPS gun, the skulls were overwhelming and no amount of running and ducking for cover could prepare me for this onslaught. You're balancing the burn status from Friizze and the radiation status from the skulls and the poison pools, and you still need to take the time to hit the boss with high damaging attacks before it flees again. It's a fight that feels far too hectic for this point in the game with the upgrades I had. I'm not against Remnant having basic mobs in their boss arenas because a shooter is just inherently a different genre to any other Souls-like and I adjust my expectations accordingly, but fuck me if I am sick of seeing those floating green skulls. At number 35, we have the Warden, found in the Halls of Judgment dungeon. In a similar case to Friizze, I think the Warden himself is a rather shallow creature. He can throw a lance at you, he can perform a brief combo, and most importantly, he can plant bells that summon additional monsters. He's the Warden and they are his prisoners, and he throws the entire complex at you with this fight being less of a battle against the Warden himself, and more just about not dying to the inmates. The fact that I took over half the battle just to get one of the boss's 4 health bar chunks down shows how little I got to actually interact with him. And once you do get him alone, he's basic, bland, and doesn't bring anything new to the table, the pure definition of a filler boss. Though I will admit the arena being this ring-like coliseum is pretty cool. At number 34, we have the Blink Thief, found in the Forgotten Undercroft. Unlike the rest of the bosses in Remnant, the Blink Thief is special. As you enter, he'll steal away the ricochet rifle and warp to somewhere else in the dungeon. It's your job to find the Blink Thief and kill him before he disappears for good, forcing you to reroll the world for another shot. He only appears 3 times in the dungeon for roughly 12 to 14 seconds per appearance, so you have to be ready with your perks and your high damaging weapons to put him down. Ironically, it's a very blink and you'll miss it boss, because the thief is incredibly fragile and only has a javelin throw to protect himself, preferring to appear around other enemies that are there to distract you from the main target. It's an interesting setup that I like in theory, but in practice it ended up a tad boring if I'm honest, and it was a pain to find because this takes up the slot of the optional dead-end dungeon in any adventure mode reroll, and not the dungeon that links 2 locations together, despite the wiki saying otherwise. Had me re-rolling for no reason because I didn't realize for 2 hours. At number 33 is Shroud, found in the Hidden Sanctum dungeon. This is potentially the game's first boss, depending on your campaign's generation, and I've got to be honest, Shroud's a bit of a flop, I fear. The boss itself has two moves, sniping you with its gun, or summoning a barrage of AoE explosions above your head. Right when you get a good line of sight on the boss, an AoE surprises you, or he just warps away, leaving you to try re-scouting him, which is rough at the best of times. Combine this with the many regular enemies that are summoned throughout the fight, and focusing down Shroud becomes a real battle of attrition. He can even inflict bleed on you for extra damage. It's disrespectful. He didn't leave a great first impression, especially as an elite enemy that doesn't do anything unique in his boss fight to make me think he deserved the promotion to being a boss. At number 32, we have Brabus, found in the Cutthroat Channel dungeon. When I came into Remnant, I knew I'd be fighting alien creatures and demonic monsters spawned by the Root, so wandering into this dungeon and just being beset by simple bandits was a bit of a culture shock. Brabus's fight is your standard cover shooter experience, him and his lackeys versus you in a room set up to make Nathan Drake blush. There's nothing inherently exciting about him, except that he has a shotgun which can fuck you up at close range, and later into the fight, the ads he spawns can get overwhelming if you're not good at watching your flanks. Brabus at least has two interesting interactions pre-fight though, one where you can bring the pocket watch from an NPC called Mudtooth, which allows you to skip the boss fight and obtain the bandit set, and one where if you enter with a co-op friend, he'll ask the pair of you to kill each other for a trade. That's cool. His fight, not so much. At number 31, we have Maul, found in the Burrows dungeon. While the dogs are the true bosses, you can talk with their Houndmaster and purchase jerky from him, but what you really want is the horn on his head. Shoot it with a few bullets in accurate fashion and it will cause a malfunction, breaking his control over the pack. Then you get to watch the boss eat the Houndmaster and you get the control rod for the Ancient Construct boss fight we talked about earlier. Aside from that, Maul is a dog surrounded by other dogs. Unlike other Souls games, your guns act as a great aid in messing the buggers up, especially if you've got a shotgun or hard-hitting gun that one or two shots the ads. The fight is fun for watching Maul kill his master, but the actual dog boss is barely remembered. At number 30, we have Gorefist, found in the Sunken Passage dungeon. Another elite enemy who is given boss status, Gorefist is a love it or hate it fight that depends entirely on your ability to mitigate his ads, and he was my first boss in the game. Because his melee attacks are very predictable, they aren't the problem. It's the rotworts that he summons throughout the fight that are the problem. They approach your position with a crying sound, and you have to shoot and pop them before they explode in your face. In a regular arena, this would be pretty easy, but Gorefist is in a very enclosed, claustrophobic arena of corridors and walkways, making it very hard to figure out where the next attack or enemy is coming from. It's best to just find a corner and chill, popping the enemies and attacking the boss before repeating the strategy. It was a wild first boss for me, let me tell you, but one that I do enjoy because I see the concept. Melee boss with homing projectile ads, it's simple and effective. At number 29, we have the Root Horror, found in the Guardian Shrine after using the strange curio from the Stuck Merchant to unlock the door. A tale of two encounters. The first fight against the Root Horror was surprisingly difficult for me due to the small arena and the tankiness of the root ads. You can very easily build up the Root Rot status effect, which is this game's poison, and I ended up dying pretty quickly here. I returned to the cave though to discover that the boss was gone. It kills the Stuck Merchant in the overworld, and that area becomes the proper boss arena with the Root Horror now at full health. You've got a bit more space to play around with it though, and that space is exactly what I needed to avoid the bombs it launched and the explosions it causes beneath your feet. Keeping distance and pelting with high-level weapons while dealing with the ads in the larger arena makes the Root Horror a quick and simple encounter in the grand scheme of things. At number 28, we have Kanka, found in the Drowned Trench dungeon, and this boss is triggering right now because I have some real bad Kanka sores and I'm fighting through them recording this script. It's been a battle, but I'm not going to take it out on Kanka too much. It's a bulbous mass that rushes around the arena, blindly shooting corrosive bombs to make the playing field more difficult to navigate, though most of the time I could stand off to the side and just take pot shots. That is, until Kanka uses a wave attack that you do need to dodge through to avoid, and there are a few ads that can spawn in if you're not paying attention. I like the idea of limiting your arena based on these corrosive landmines, and the water waves keep you on your toes and gives the Canker an actual attack that can target you. It's super simple, but for some reason this fight is just fun for me. That's honestly enough to get it out of the very bottom of this game's roster. At number 27, we have Skald and Sia, found in the Withering Village dungeon. The first of a handful of true gank bosses, Skald and Sia are a duo that each do one thing, but they do it very well. Skald is a sniper who fires a volley of explosive burning crossbow bolts at you, which will demolish your health if you don't see them coming, while Sia gets up close and personal before throwing a ranged bomb that you need to dodge to avoid. Skald can also summon Fleshipedes, which are some of my least favourite enemies in the game, because the lock-on always points the crosshair beneath their weak spot, and it's very difficult to actually headshot them consistently. I end up shooting at the floor more often than not, which is really frustrating. And Skald, for being a sniper, has a tanky health pool for his archetype. Sia goes down near immediately for being a squishy baby, but Skald made it so I never wanted to repeat this fight again. I'd have better luck just re-rolling and killing a boss I knew I could handle over Skald and his infinite poise and massive health bar. I respect the concept, I just dread the execution. At number 26, we have the Thrall, found in the Capillary dungeon. The Thrall is a boss that uses a lot of tropes that Remnant seems to love. The first is teleporting. This game loves a teleporting boss, as you'll see throughout this video. And the second is an AoE dropped on the player. The Thrall tries to keep its distance while shooting you with corruptive projectiles and spawning corrosive zones that you can't stay in lest you take damage and increase the status effect. The boss also has a host of adds that will come to its aid, which is a good thing because without them, I'd be able to kill the Thrall in 20 seconds flat. His health is paper plate thin, and whether I have a good run or a bad run is fully dependent on the RNG of his teleports. If he ends up somewhere in my range, brilliant. If he warps onto one of the upper platforms, I'm in for a longer fight. There is strategy here, I enjoy it, but I also do enjoy ripping this guy limb from limb in 30 seconds or less. At number 25, we have the Mangler, found in the Tangled Pass dungeon. Now we're starting to reach the bosses I actually really enjoyed, and the Mangler does something I wish more of these elite enemy bosses would do. It adds an extra layer. See, at the start, the boss will burrow underground, spawn a series of smaller adds, and then re-emerge and charge towards you, attempting to attack. You dodge, watch as it rolls around, carefully time your shots to stop the beast before it all rinses and repeats. With a solid melee weapon, you can kill the extra minions in one swing, leaving the Mangler defenseless, but midway into the fight, it grows in size, becoming big. The boss follows the same patterns, except now it has more deadly melee combos and hits much harder to compensate for the larger target it presents. The first time this happened, I got wrecked. I dodged backwards while he lunged forwards and that was history, but this change is a great moment. It shows that some of these bosses have the capability to become a little bit stronger, to be a threat beyond their initial movesets, all from this little Sonic the Hedgehog lookalike. At number 24, we have Riphide, found in Leto's lab. When I first fought this boss, I was convinced Riphide would be higher in the rankings, but looking back, his gimmick is very divisive. Pun intended. Riphide will spot you when you enter the arena, and after you do a bit of damage, the boss will split into two clones. They share the same health bar and the same moveset, able to attack you at melee range, fire projectiles, and most importantly for this fight, create large shockwaves you have to dodge through. At 75% health, the clones will split again to create 4 Riphides, and at 50% health, the 4 clones will split into 8 clones, all of which will be chasing you down for the remainder of the fight. I like this idea, making the danger more real, but keeping their movesets the same so you know what's coming, you just have to be prepared. Getting cover to heal in the last third of the fight can be a challenge in itself, but when you add Riphide's ability to heal that it unlocks, that challenge veers a little into insanity. When there are 4 clones, one will begin to glow and heal the group which you need to shoot to stagger out of the animation, and when there are 8 clones, 2 of them will begin to glow and heal the group, same solution. It made this one of the toughest fights from the Earth category, but I will remember Riphide's gimmick fondly, I can't deny that. At number 23, we have Shade and Shatter, found in the Ardent Temple dungeon. This is the second gank fight featuring two distinct bosses, and I'll be completely honest, it is about as by the numbers as you could expect for a gank fight. Shatter is melee focused because he will shatter your kneecaps, while Shade is ranged because how are you gonna throw Shade if you can't even throw? And speaking of Shade, he is the most dangerous of the two. He can shoot fire projectiles, which apply the burning status on you, and he can shoot with a radioactive ball that applies the radioactive status, which halves your stamina. Shatter is, of course, trying to hit you with melee lance attacks and explosive charges while this is going down, but these attacks are dodgeable and predictable. They can sometimes also do a team attack where Shade conjures radioactive orbs, Shatter shields himself, and enemies appear in the arena. Personally, I don't think gank fights need backup though. You have two bosses, just make their movesets tougher instead of relying on minions here. But then I also recognize that the minions are there to ensure you never run out of ammo, as that could royally suck the fun out of the game. Once you kill Shade, Shatter goes down so quickly, that lopsidedness is what truly keeps them from rising any higher. At number 22, we have Scourge, found in the Iron Rift dungeon. He is the radiation boss of the game that I remember the most, mainly because anytime you headshot him, he fires out green radiation projectiles that chase you down. But it is worth the risk because the extra damage will keep the fight moving good and proper. When you're not popping him in the head and causing projectiles to attack you, you're avoiding his stretchy claw swipes and his radioactive ground slams. Keeping your distance is important, as if you let Scourge catch up to you, you're more likely to be surrounded by him and his irradiated adds that spawn throughout the fight. The adds are dangerous too, as when you kill them, they explode shortly after, so I focused on sniping them from range the moment I saw them moving before going back to the boss. He does have a special move where he coats himself in a pool of radiation and begins firing tons of projectiles that home in on the player, but a well-placed bit of cover can protect you, assuming you're not caught off guard by his minions. There's not a terrible amount to juggle here, but what you do take on feels like it has worth and weight to it. Decent fight, good execution, nice job game. At number 21, we have the Ent fought in the Choking Hallow. This is the first world boss on the list, which is the name given to bosses fought at the end of a given world in either the campaign or adventure modes. They are often more intense than your average mini-dungeon boss, but the Ent is just the most chill of the bunch. It is exactly what you think it is, a giant tree creature that uses heavy slams to try and knock you off your balance. His main attacks involve either a foot slam that you can roll through to avoid, or a hand slam that sends a shockwave you need to roll to the side to avoid. Pretty simple stuff. It can shoot explosives at your last known location, so you're forced to keep moving, especially as it can rot you, and the boss can summon hollows and rotwarts. The hollows can be meleeed easily, but the rotwarts do require sniping because they blow up when they get close to you. Rinse and repeat, it's not a terribly complex fight. But there is an alternate win condition that can get you a better reward if you destroy the Ent's legs. This causes the boss to use a different type of melee attack since its legs are gone, and it crawls around the arena trying to hit you. Less threatening, very cool mechanic. I like the breakable limbs. That being said, world boss alternate strategies aren't exactly made equal, and while the Ent's is cool, we have some coming up that flop a little bit. Unlike my channel, 40,000 subscribers and growing. If you guys really like this video, consider not parrying that subscribe button because one of my commenters pointed out that that would be you deflecting the subscribe button. Let's backstab the subscribe button instead. I'd love to hit 50,000 by the end of the year, and we would love to have you here. At number 20, we have the Dreamer and Nightmare, the final boss of the main campaign, which felt like a tale of two very different fights that did not come together in a satisfying or challenging way. Now, I will admit I was running a near fully upgraded build by the time I faced the final boss, which could explain why I found it extremely easy, but even then, I never felt like the movesets were that complex. The Dreamer is the first phase, seeing you face Doc Ock Sasuke, hi Yuri Lowenthal, and his attacks are predictable. He's not that tanky, headshots are easy to land, he can spin his arms around to try and hit you, he can spin them and pull you in before slamming the ground, he can create shockwaves you have to dodge, and there are some root enemies that appear, but to me this fight was just really easy. I think it would have been easy even if I didn't have the upgraded gear because the moveset was so telegraphed. Then Nightmare hits, and I lost all steam for the finale here. Nightmare has one attack, firing orbs at the player. Otherwise, he warps you to a shadow dimension that at first glance you'd think, ooh, I should get out of here quickly, because you're also losing health the longer you're in there. But Nightmare takes barely any damage when you leave, and it turns out the enemies you kill while in the shadow dimension add to a character buff that is barely visible on screen, and if you get that buff nice and high before leaving the dimension, you'll be able to do more damage to Nightmare. An interesting mechanic that is so badly communicated to the player that I had to look it up. I would never have figured that out on my own when the game has never tried a mechanic like this before now. Poorly telegraphed but interesting in premise, and the first phase is genuinely fun. I kinda wish the first phase was the full fight and it got an enhanced moveset and a second health bar, but I don't know if that's a popular take. I just didn't find this final boss as a whole package that engaging. At number 19, we have Claviger, fought in the Spindle. One of 3 world bosses in the world of ROM. I love the design of this boss. The jagged, harsh lines, the alien armor aesthetic, it's a great world boss to showcase that we're not on Earth anymore, even if it uses a gimmick that I've never been the biggest fan of. Claviger is protected by a shield which is powered by 2 orbs that you need to destroy before you can damage the boss. While this is happening, the boss will fire large electric attacks in your direction which you can strafe to avoid, and it can summon mobs to hound you in the arena which you need to kill quickly. They're pretty tanky in campaign mode, unless you want Claviger to absorb the mobs mid-fight, as when he rotates the arena, he will absorb any enemies or player summons, and that will change the drop you receive when you win the fight. The last attack is a radiation beam, one that follows you shifting left to right, and you can dodge through it with ease. In fact, Claviger is so open during this attack when the beam isn't homing in on you, that you can do some real damage. Just be careful not to let the boss destroy all 4 pillars on the arena. They're your only cover, and once they're gone, things can get real dicey. At number 18, we have the Harrow, found in the bunker. The second of 3 world bosses in ROM, the Harrow doesn't necessarily have a complex fight, but there's just something about the energy here that really appeals to me. This horrifying creature stalks you through the halls, charging at you to strike you down with his attacks, alongside a series of combos that can be very difficult to dodge if you're pinned down in an enclosed area. He deals a lot of damage, making him way more deadly than Claviger, and periodically he also runs away to other parts of the arena while spawning adds for you to deal with in the meantime. It's almost survival horror in the way he vanishes, only to reappear behind you and slice you down when you least expect it. His alternate drop is the Lost Harpoon, which requires you to shoot his legs enough that he falls to the ground, which then allows you to get behind him and remove the harpoon from his body. It's a challenge though, because he doesn't stay staggered for long, but can be real riveting to pull off. Sometimes vibes can really elevate a boss for me, and the Harrow fits that bill to a T. At number 17, we have Onslaught, found in the Widow's Pass dungeon. Onslaught is a formulaic but fair fight that represented a bit of breathing room throughout the difficulty of Yeisha. He has the ability to blink through the arena, using his skill to appear in front of you. In the early part of the fight when he reappears from a blink, he'll swap between going for an attack or an AoE that does shock damage. Either way, I always dodged backwards, and once you get the timing down, it feels pretty good to fight him. The boss hits hard, so if you mess up you do get punished, but otherwise you've got such an open window to shoot him up. Sometimes he'll vanish for a while, spawning adds that you can kill for ammo, and at lower health he'll sometimes appear while the adds are still alive, so that you have to face both threats at the same time. He also has a 3-hit combo that he rocks out post-blink in the last part of the fight, which just feels really good to dodge through. I fought this guy multiple times in adventure mode, he's just a solid boss. Fair design, fair tells, he doesn't do much to push the boat out, but he's leagues better than the other teleporting bosses up to this point. At number 16, we have Urfor the Jackal, found in the Wild Reach dungeon. The DLC world of Racem has some of the more fun boss encounters in the game, purely because it feels like they had the experience of designing base game bosses, and they realized what worked and what didn't. Urfor fights you on a large circular island with 2 side islands that the boss can jump to whenever he needs to retreat. Because there are no guardrails, you have to be careful not to fall off the edges of the arena, and you need to be careful because Urfor's attacks can also break paneling on the ground, revealing more holes that you can fall down. Gravity is a danger. Urfor will jump at you with slam attacks and throw snowballs at you which you need to dodge, while avoiding the frozen status effect. Then, when he jumps to a side island, he'll continue to pelt you with periodic snowballs, while suicide bomber rats will spawn and attempt to blow you up. The rats are kinda crazy in Race'em, not gonna lie. Urfor also can slam the ground to create icy spike shockwaves, but by this point in the game, that style of attack has been used a lot, so you should know what to do. And since you'll likely have maxed out gear by the time you reach Race'em, Urfor's health will go down in just a couple of cycles. It's a good fight, and I like the way they play around with the arena. At number 15, we have Stormcaller, found in the Heretic's Nest dungeon. This is a boss I fought multiple times while farming Yeisha in adventure mode, and I just kinda grew to love the guy. Immediately, I think the arena is quite striking, this ancient woodland temple of sorts with the shrine arches leading up to the boss. Stormcaller, as his name suggests, wields the power of storms and can bring the pain. He periodically fires electrical orbs at you while strafing behind pillars. This is the easy part of the fight. The moment the Stormcaller is triggered though, he'll begin striking the earth with lightning that appears around the player and the arena itself, forcing you to stay cognizant of the attacks lest you get overwhelmed. The trick is to not panic. When the lightning starts, keep moving and don't stop. Wait until everything is calm, and then we go back to shooting Stormcaller. He can also summon electrical tracking orbs that roll along the ground, which you can shoot to destroy. The ads he spawns can be a little annoying, as they force you to stay in place to kill them during the lightning strike phase, but ultimately the Stormcaller is fairly balanced, and feels like a much better version of the Thrall from earlier in the video. He can be cheesed very hard though if you summon the good boy or any minion type enemy that follows the boss, but I have no regrets, I love cheese. At number 14, we have Tian the Assassin, found in the Valenhag Mines dungeon. A boss encounter that proves not every enemy should be fought close up, because this assassin is a master of speedy melee attacks. He will not only combo your ass, but leave you on the ground while he flees to throw more projectiles. I thought I dealt with enough assassin rats in Vermintide too, but Remnant said, hold my beer. When Tian isn't chasing you down, he's throwing knives that curve towards you, and you really need to just find good cover to avoid that damage. He'll summon ads via a screech, with all of those enemies able to throw fans of knives that can deal a lot of damage quickly, and that's while he's doing his thing in the background. When he's in melee range, always dodge into his charges, as he'll zoom right past you, but he can immediately go into another attack so you can't relax until he's jumped away to the nearest high platform. It's a battle of attrition, but one that I find incredibly well designed. Just a real perfect blend. Also, smash. At number 13, we have the Unclean One, found in the Shack. The main thing I remember about this world boss is that his weak spot is his giant fucking dumpy. There is an alternate win condition as well. When you enter the shack, you can go into the basement and hide in a jar, but I haven't done that myself. Fight-wise, the Unclean One is a pretty fair melee fighter who somehow has X-ray vision because I swear he can see you through the walls of his shack. I had so many moments where I'd be behind a wall thinking I could heal, only for the boss to throw his weapon through the paneling and directly into my face. Healing in this fight is low-key kinda tough because the boss's moveset can close distance more than you'd expect. A leaping weapon attack, a forward belly strike, a multi-hit combo that pushes him forwards, and throughout the arena are pots that, when broken, spawn ads. The Unclean One naturally having a moveset that encourages the breaking of these pots, especially with his most dangerous move, the Beyblade, where he spins around in a circle, whirling through the arena for way longer than he has any right to be spinning. He can hit ads while doing this move, but more often than not, you're just trying to position yourself to survive. I just have to shoot up that ass. And in Pride Month. Remnant from the Ashes, I see you. At number 12, we have Ikro, the Ice Conjurer, found in the Wuthering Keep dungeon. Of the new Race'em dungeon bosses, Ikro is either a love it or hate it type of fight, but one that I feel was more explicitly designed with multiple players in mind. He stands in the center of a large arena with a handful of bridges leading to his platform, while the outer arena is filled with cover. When the fight begins, two large clouds will circle the outer arena, raining down hail and forcing players to keep moving to avoid the damage. All while Ikro will summon an orb in the sky that fires ice projectiles periodically. This is the challenge of this fight, because destroying that orb with anything other than a fully upgraded sniper rifle just does not do the damage you need in the time you have. If you've got the wrong weapon types, it can be brutal. You'll need to heal multiple times. It's why I think this fight is best with co-op play, because one person can be targeted by the ice while the other can destroy the orb summoning said projectiles. Ikro's melee attacks are easy to tank, not that threatening with the staff or the projectiles, though he can get dicey when he summons a host of rats that you need to kill because they make Ikro invulnerable until they're all dead. But then it's just a rinse-repeat of the fight until the boss is down. Ikro lands this high for having a clear-as-day concept and an arena that is perfectly designed for the fight. Cover that's breakable, so you have to keep moving as the ice projectiles attack, enhanced by the hail clouds that perpetually circle the fight to keep you on your toes. Brilliant work. At number 11, we have Singe, found in the Ashe Yard. The first world boss I encountered, I've been on a bit of a journey with him. He's this demonic creature that wields the power of fire, and will make it your problem. His arena is coated in oil, so all of his attacks have the opportunity to create flammable pools that will quickly burn you if you brush against them, and as he spawns adds, they can become stronger when they're set on fire too, so his entire kit is designed to burn you and make you really hone in on spatial awareness. All of his attacks are also fire and claw based, with melee claw swipes when you get close, and fireballs and fire breath when you're far away. Like with Soulsborne Dragons, the flamethrower attack is your chance to run behind Singe and get some hits in, but sometimes that's not possible because he uses the attack when you're too far away and you need to dodge backwards instead. I'll be honest, the flamethrower has a stupid hitbox and it's impossible to dodge through. You'll always get hit with the burning status and it will kill you so quickly in the early game, it's not even funny. Later into the fight, he can use a fire attack that explodes from beneath you, requiring specific timing to dodge, but keep your distance, attack liberally, and Singe will go down. If you want his optional drop though, you'll have to destroy his tail first, which is, in my opinion, incredibly difficult to pull off. I don't have footage of it sadly, but trust me when I say this took me hours. I really got to know the boss by the end of it. Very difficult, but in a game where not too many of the fights actually are, it was welcome. At number 10, we have the Barbed Terror, found in the Needle Layer dungeon. Shout out to Corsus for having two of their dungeon bosses make my top 10, and the first is the Barbed Terror, where the boss is actually the arena, not the creature inside it. You're effectively in a nest, and the entire room is made of the Barbed Terror. The body is right in front of you, and you have to blast him to Kingdom Come, all while he's attacking with slams from his tentacles and slices from his arms. But the real challenge of the fight comes from the barbs themselves. The boss will, throughout the fight, fire spikes across the room from various holes in the walls, and you have to figure out where the spikes are coming from, what direction they're going in, and position yourself accordingly to avoid them. And these spikes hit hard, by the way, like 2 or 3 hits and you're dead levels of hard. It was just really refreshing to face a boss where the gimmick wasn't any extra enemies or constantly moving around, it's just you versus the arena in an endurance test, assuming you don't just use the Veil of the Black tier to nullify a bunch of the projectiles like I did later on. Though, I wouldn't blame you, use what you have. I really wish this was one of the fights I got on courses during the campaign mode, instead of the Thrall and Kanker. At number 9, we have Obrick the Shield Warden, found in the Exile's Trench dungeon. The last of the Raysome dungeon bosses, we have another fight that I have to praise for one thing above all else: no enemy adds. Funnily enough, Obrick reminds me of a God of War enemy, very melee focused, with his goal being to smash you to a pulp by any means necessary. But I felt like his attacks were readable and extremely fair to the player. I could totally see him getting parried and ripped apart by Kratos. I guess he'll have to settle for a beam rifle to the face instead. His melee attacks give you openings if you avoid them to get off damage, but he'll always have a high level of aggression, so you never feel too safe in any given moment. He can also raise a flurry of snow and hide within it, obscuring when he's about to attack you to make your dodge timing a little rougher, and he can create an ice AoE by slamming the ground that you can dodge away from, but you will need to keep your distance because of passive frost buildup. Funnily enough, this fight could have used an extra enemy or two to spice it up. The moveset is there to support it, or give Obrick a ranged attack just to up his threat level. Would love to fight again though. At number 8, we have the Undying King, found in the Hall of the Undying. An optional world boss depending on what you do with the Guardian Heart in the main campaign, the Undying King was once considered one of the hardest fights in the game. I can see it. I may have beaten this fight first try, but it was a survival check, let me tell you. At the start, he'll send his guards to fight you while summoning these orbs that slowly shoot you as the fight progresses. For me though, the king himself wasn't the issue. His guards were, because they're tanky, and if they overrun you, you'll be wasting a lot of healing just to get into a good standing. And those orbs, if you let them build up, can be nightmarish. The king will attack with melee combos, reminding me a bit of the Thumerian descendant in Bloodborne with his jump slice. I don't regret summoning my good boy to help me in this fight, and rewatching the footage, I got pretty lucky. This guy and his constant adds are brutal. He re-heals a short amount, which I believe is determined by how quickly you break him out of his meditation, and once the health bar goes down a second time, the Undying King fails to live up to his name. It's a really good fight, one that I think I'd have more fun with now than when I faced him earlier in-game. He could move up a few spots on a good day, I fear. At number 7, we have Dream Eater, found in the Hall of Whispers dungeon. The final dungeon boss on this list, and the one with the most aura in the game, Remnant decided to become a sci-fi horror, and I have no choice but to respect it. The Dream Eater is this twisted creature that jitters through the boss arena, constantly getting up in your face to attack you. His melee attack has a wider range than expected, but he leaves himself pretty open right after. His gimmick though is that he likes to perform attacks that involve cloning himself while obscuring his real body. He can summon phantoms that you need to avoid while attacking the main body, which can be dealt with by just running and not looking back. The mid-fight, he'll rise into the air, teleport, and summon a host of phantoms that all charge up a devastating attack. The real boss will be glowing brighter than the rest, and you need to shoot the real boss to stagger him and halt the assault. But if you kill the clones, they create projectiles that will home in on you so you can't fire willy-nilly. Dream Eater just has the sauce, man. I don't know what to tell you. He's a vibe, and he genuinely unnerves me. At number 6, we have Brudvak the Rider and Varga the Warg, found in the Crimson Hold. The world boss of Raysum, this is your classic Ornstein and Smo setup, where the first phase sees you facing both enemies at the same time. But once one of them dies, you get a short cutscene before the surviving member of the pair powers up their attacks. And depending on the order you kill them in, you'll also get different rewards. Now, is this boss hard? No, I don't think I died to them in either attempt. With the Hot Shot Weapon mod, I was able to burn their health pool down significantly, and while riding, you just have to dodge out of the way of Varga's charges until Brudvag hops off and fights solo. The Warg will burrow underground at this point, sometimes popping up beneath you to deal damage, while the Rider will use either melee attack combos or try to shoot you with projectiles. At any point, they can also call on their followers outside of the arena to barrage the arena with arrows, so you're never too safe. But the movesets are really fair. Once one boss goes down, the other gains a fiery addition to their attacks, with the Warg creating fire trails when it burrows, and the Rider lighting his sword up for more fire damage. Neither enhanced moveset is overly difficult, but they're fun to fight, and I think the gimmick here was designed pretty well. No complaints. At number 5, we have the Totem Father, found at the Tempest Court. This world boss is unique for having two distinct forms that are decided before you enter the arena. There's a totem with a target outside that, when shot, will make the eyes either red or blue. Blue means the Totem Father will focus more on ranged attacks, while red means the Totem Father will focus more on melee attacks. My campaign playthrough was blue, so I spent my time shooting Father as he hopped from totem to totem, avoiding his electrical blasts and destroying the staffs he slammed down into the ground as needed. I like that as long as you destroy the totems he places, you can stop him from spawning in extra adds to make your life easier. Otherwise, it's just avoiding a ton of different projectiles while using the totems as cover. It's not a hard fight on paper, but in practice, I found Totem Father messed me up far more than I'm willing to admit. But his red variant for me was the real danger, because having him on the ground melee comboing you without a chance for you to heal got the blood pumping. He's easy to damage when he's on the totems hopping around, but once he's in the thick of it and you've got other enemies running around too, he can overwhelm you very quickly. Even then though, I found the challenge extremely fun and worthwhile. I never got annoyed with the Totem Father. His arena is vast and fair, there are ways to halt the spread of optional enemies, and the replayability of 2 vaguely distinct movesets hits really well. At number 4, we have Harsgard, the final boss of the DLC. Harsgard is what the Dreamer fight wishes it could be, with a complex moveset that, while not the most difficult to fight, presents enough of a challenge that I think, okay, this is fun, I like this. So many of the game's bosses feel like cannon fodder for a shooter, but every now and then you'll get bosses that feel like actual bosses. Harsgard is one of them. He has a series of orbs that rotate around him which he uses to create energy attacks. For example, creating beams that rotate around the arena, or creating circular AoEs that extend outwards. He's got a barrage attack that targets the spot you were last standing in, and he's on that near automata drip because he can fire a series of bullet hell orbs that you have to carefully strafe through. Mid-phase, he starts crawling on the ground, but his attack patterns remain the same, adding a slam or two into the proceedings. Then Phase 2 hits. You're given the fusion rifle, and the game is clearly saying, use this weapon to kill Harsgard. Except when I hit Phase 2, I died at the exact same moment, so I respawned at my checkpoint, saw the fusion rifle was a +10, but forgot that boss weapons only go up to +10 instead of +20, so I was thinking, oh, that seems a bit weak, and just went back to using my beam rifle instead. I feel bad that I ruined the cinematic moment of the DLC myself, but hey, what can you do? Phase 2 is all about avoiding heavily telegraphed laser and AoE attacks while pelting the boss with shots. Though I'll say, I do wish that the line AoEs from the crystals had a warning sign on the floor like you'd have in MMOs, because it was so tough to tell from my depth perception whether I was in the line of fire or not. Ultimately, Harsgard goes down, and it is a satisfying kill, with Phase 2 actually getting me close to death. Not my favourite fight in the game, but I understood the mechanics. No random tiny buff icons in the corner for me, thanks. At number 3, we have Ixalis 15 and 16, found in the grotto. The last of the game's gank fights, I'm surprised this one's in my top 3, but I truly think Ixalis is one of the more unique encounters in the game, and that deserves praise. To start with, the arena is a thin bridge, meaning you have to be extra careful as you're moving or dodging around, as it's easy to accidentally roll off. Normally I'd be annoyed at this because I find those arenas frustrating, but here in Remnant it makes a bit more sense, especially as the 2 Ixalis bosses inhabit each side of the bridge. You'll be turning one way to fire at one boss and then the other way to get to the other one. Their movesets are very complementary too. You won't have them both spamming the same attack at the same time, always doing something that benefits the other without being downright unfair. For example, one might fire a giant laser while the other uses melee attack combos. You can use the Veil of the Black Tier to keep many of the projectiles away, which is something I had no issue with because this fight was already pretty tough. And both bosses can use a Screech attack that you need to interrupt by staggering them both, otherwise you'll take a ton of damage. It's a case of either you take the damage or they take the damage, and that's pretty fun. Once one Ixalis goes down, the other will enrage and begins using its attack patterns in a more aggressive notion, but if you've made it that far, you can finish it off. The challenge is in keeping the Ixalis that's off-screen in your mind so you don't get snuck up on without a sneaky attack or two. And God forbid you go for the alternate kill of defeat both Ixalis without any of them enraging. I could never. At number 2, we have the Ravager, found at the Ravager's Haunt. This is not a tough fight, I just want to preface this, but I just kind of felt pure joy when I faced this gargantuan wolf and his pals. The Ravager will dodge behind the pillars in his arena while trying to set up melee swipes you can dodge by rolling towards. Then he'll leave the arena, bringing back with him a series of enemy adds that ride atop his back. It's your job to kill them before he starts his combos again, and the fight repeats this cycle until the Ravager goes down. I realize that doesn't sound terribly engaging, but I can't explain it, I just had a lot of fun fighting the boss. I found the moveset simple yet fair, and after some of the fatigue of some of the more annoying dungeon bosses, it was nice to face a straightforward gimmick as it were. Maybe if I encountered him with less upgrades he'd be tougher, but I'm not complaining. Sick design too, by the way. That being said, the hardest part of the fight is easily his alternate win condition, especially on PS5. You have to shoot 5 bells in the arena in a specific order, in a specific pace. If you're too slow, it won't work, and you can't miss, and you have to be accurate. This will play a lullaby that pacifies the Ravager, allowing you to skip the fight and chat with him instead, which is a really cool Easter egg. Just really difficult on controller since you don't have the precision aiming of a mouse and keyboard. It's not my favourite fight in the game, it's number 2, but I will high-five the Ravager anytime I see him. And at number 1, we have the Iskall Queen, found in the Iskall Sanctum. Not only is she my favourite boss in the game, but she is also by far the hardest boss in Remnant. Added as a DLC encounter, you must give her the Guardian Heart in the main campaign, which will then allow you to fight her, and she has 3 phases that will test you to your limits. Phase 1 has her on her throne, and you need to deal enough damage to get her to leave the throne and trigger Phase 2. She starts by swarming you with explosive adds that you can shoot in groups to trigger chain explosions, but this requires a lot of trial and error to get used to. She has a poison puddle shot that you have to keep moving around to avoid. If her wings glow, you have to get central in the arena to avoid an AoE along the outer edges, which is often followed up by a central AoE that you avoid by doing the exact opposite. And most deadly for me, she has this ability to mark you with insects, and then when she clicks her fingers, a cricket noise sounds and those insects explode. It's a timed dodge situation where you have to be hyper aware of her tell to know the moment of dodge. Tougher towards the end of the phase where she'll mark you and then mix in other attacks before setting off the bombs. Phase 2 starts with her stunning the entire arena as she coats it with fog and flies towards the player. You have to shoot her enough to stun her out of this animation, clearing the fog and allowing you to move. She wields a scythe and has a lot of close-range melee combos you have to dodge towards to avoid. The tough part here is that she hits for a lot of damage while not giving you much room to heal. She can close distance in a snap, and the only safe times to pop a heal are after she does any of her AoE slams. The final phase sees her fly up into the air, firing projectiles and slicing you with devastating cuts. It's more of an addition to phase 2, as she'll eventually land again and go right back to that initial moveset. But if you make it here, you can take the Queen down. She took way more attempts than anything else in the game, but she is the clearest example of a boss fight. I want more fights like this in Remnant 2, which I'll be playing in the coming months. However, if you really are struggling, why not get the alternate kill? Go through phase 1, position yourself so that in front of you is one of the pillars on the ceiling of the arena, wait for her phase 2 to begin, and then when you stun her, boom. Come on now, that deserves a subscription, right? 50,000 subscribers? I really want to reach that goal by the end of the year. I know we can do it. And let me just quickly give a massive shout out to my YouTube channel members. We have quite a few of you because of some very kind gifted memberships. You get access to my Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 2 Soul Level 1 runs, Kingsfield 1994 playthrough, and it's just really cool to be there. So, $4.99 down in the description, consider it, and I'll see you for Remnant 2. Adios.